What up? What up? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. And we have a great episode for you, sharing with you how to actually do $1 million crowdfunding campaign. And, we talk a lot on this show about raising money and raising capital, but it's also about making a difference. If you listen to these other episodes that I have out there, I have more than 300, I believe it is, on this podcast, you can go back and hear all the different founders and creators, people from many different walks, doing many different types of companies and products and new projects and inventions that you're trying to bring into the world. But one of the biggest commonalities, I think, of my community and also of the guests we have on is that not only do they want to raise capital, but they also want to make meaning. They want to do something cool in the world. They want to bring something new that's going to solve a problem of some kind when it comes to their projects. And on today's episode, you're going to discover how this individual is able to attract more than 1,200 investors or backers for their project to raise over $1 million, and kind of hear about a lesser known platform as well to be able to do that. So I'm very platform agnostic. I do recommend certain platforms when it comes to crowdfunding. For example, rewards based, we talk about Kickstarter and Indiegogo a lot in the show. When it comes to charity based, we talk a bit more about GoFundMe. There's nonprofit campaigns and real estate crowdfunding campaigns, all that kind of stuff. We talk about equity campaigns, etc. So I'm very platform agnostic, and I'm more so about the tactics and the techniques that are going to triple your funding, going to help you raise more money when you're actually doing one of these raises. And that's really, with this show, what I try to bring to you, which is we try to hear directly from people what the heck is working. Not only what phenomenons are happening in this industry that you can model, that you can follow in the footsteps of, and then you can kind of copy those keys to success and apply it to your own campaign. Not only that, those teachings, those tactics, those tools, all that kind of stuff, the strategy behind it, but we also try to share with you their mindset, their approach to raising money, because it's very different from a lot of other niches out there. Some people are very strict, just like profit-driven individuals. Other people, again, want to make meaning. And usually crowdfunding is kind of like a little bit of a middle ground between the two. And it works usually quite well, I'd say, when it comes to the crowd. And rather than just like selling to people, you're actually creating with them. It's kind of a co-creation process, which is really cool. And actually one of the tenets or one of the pillars of crowdfunding. So that being said, we're talking a lot about Reg CF on this particular episode, which is regulation crowdfunding. This is a new thing that you can do in order to raise capital using equity crowdfunding. It's kind of a little bit like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, with the biggest difference being that people become an investor in your company versus becoming a backer of your Kickstarter or your Indiegogo campaign. So you're gonna hear a little bit about that today. If you want to check out my free course on equity crowdfunding or on Reg CF, you just gotta go to this link we're about to mention at crowdcrux.com/equity course. That link is crowdcrux.com/equity course. Again, crowdcrux.com/equity course, or you can check out my free guide, or not my free guide, sorry, but you can get a free guide actually with, if you download a free 30-day trial of Audible, you can actually get this guide for free, which is a really sweet deal at crowdcrux.com/equity audio. That link will take you to the audiobook Equity Crowdfunding Explained. And again, if you get a free 30-day trial of Audible, you can get the book for free, which is a pretty great deal. Again, that link is crowdcrux.com/equity audio. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and let's dive right into it and discover how Alpine-X was able to do $1 million crowdfunding campaign. And it's coming up right after this. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured, I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillment, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist. fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we have a mega campaign for Alpine-X. This project has already raised over $900,000, more than 1,000 backers and investors. And today we have one of the members of the team, Jim Calder, here on the call. Jim, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Sal. Great to be here.
Definitely. Did you kind of get started? Maybe you could just tell listeners a bit about what it is that you're doing with this campaign and give them a little bit of backstory there with the company.
Sure, absolutely. I'll give you a little bit of background on Alpine-X. We're a developer of indoor snow sports resorts, and our mission is to make snow sports more inclusive and more accessible to everybody all year long. And we're trying to do that by eliminating the traditional barriers or pain points that were associated with outdoor traditional snow sports, things like cost, very expensive sport to be in. Accessibility, most people don't live very close to a snow sports facility. And seasonality, most snow sports places are only open a couple months of the year, and it's very easy to miss the season unless you have a good snow season. So we're trying to address all those things. And just as importantly as making snow sports more inclusive, we're really trying to make the whole resort experience more inclusive for an entire community, trying to build a resort that's available, accessible, and a true asset to everybody in the community, regardless of your background, regardless of your income level. You're gonna have something to enjoy at Alpine-X Resort. So that's what we're looking to accomplish.
And how long have you guys been in operation now?
Well, we started the company, a couple guys in advance of when I joined. They started back in 2016 looking at this concept. Indoor snow sports are not a new idea. There's 100 plus indoor snow sports facilities around the world, a lot in Europe, some mega ones in China as well. But there's only one resort or one facility here in North America. And some of our team members, one of them came from Europe specifically. He had worked with or been involved with and experienced indoor snow sports facilities when he was growing up over in Europe. Married an American, came to America, and always wondered why that type of facility wasn't here. He was connected with a couple
Mm.
of other entrepreneurs. They started to develop the idea, and I came aboard with one of my business partners, John Emery, who's now CEO. Came aboard with him in 2019, and we started to work with the team in terms of developing the idea, developing the concept to have indoor snow sports in a full resort facility and try to start rolling these out across North America.
Very cool, very cool. And for you, when you first kind of getting introduced to this idea, what really got you excited about this? Because obviously skiing and snowboarding is awesome, man, right?
Sure.
What got you excited about this company and sort of the vision there?
I had a great experience. I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of great work experiences in my life. And one of the long ones I had before this was working as CFO of Great Wolf Resorts, which is a chain of indoor water park resorts across the country. Was very fortunate, joined that company before when it was still private, took it public, rolled it out with a great team of people working as part of that team, rolled it out across North America, one up in Canada as well, so internationally. And that was a tremendous experience to be able to develop a brand, develop a new concept. Indoor water parks were not very well known when we first started. They were only big in the Midwest. And by the time I left, it was something that everybody in the country was really well aware of as an entertainment product for your family or for your group. So that
Mm.
was a great opportunity. And then when this opportunity came along, I looked at it and said, wow, here's a chance to do something very similar. It's water based, but now frozen water instead of a water park. But very similarly, take something that's a new concept, roll it out to families and groups across the country, and really build something spectacular from a brand standpoint. And I've been doing, like I said, I've been a lucky guy. I had that opportunity with Great Wolf, and to get that opportunity again for another brand, another national opportunity like this, it's just tremendous and too good to pass up and too interesting to pass up for me. So that's
And,
really why I came on board.
and for your role in this process, are you kind of the numbers guy, right? You understanding the financials. Is that sort of your role in the process, or am I getting that wrong?
No, you're absolutely right, Sal. I mean, my background is CFO. I've been CFO of multiple public companies in my career. Have training, I've had an accounting degree. I've spent the first 11 years of my professional life as an auditor for Deloitte, so have a deep numbers background. But you're right, that's the primary focus of what I have. But as with any startup, you wear a lot of hats, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of things that you're called on to do. And again, a part of the benefit of my background, again, I've been really lucky. I've had a chance to work a lot in legal department, in treasury department, in accounting department, a lot of interaction with operations people over career, a lot of interaction with development people over my career. So the experience from all that background really plays as well to what we're doing now with a startup. Because again, we're a relatively small team because we are a startup. So you do wear a lot of hats and get called on to do a lot of things and get involved with a
Mhm.
lot of things. And that's really what I enjoy. What I hope I've been good at in my career, taking on a lot of different tasks and learning new things and using all those experiences.
Yeah, it sounds super exciting, and you definitely have a breadth of experience there. One of the things I think is new to a lot of people, particularly in the financial community, right, is this idea of doing a Reg CF style campaign. When did that really enter your mind, and like, what was your initial thought when that kind of came on the vision board there?
You're spot on with that observation, Sal. I think Reg CF is new to a lot of people. It was really new to me. I'd spent, as I mentioned, my career in a couple different public companies and then in a private equity company the last 8 or 9 years working. And in the public companies, we raised capital through very traditional means, through institutional investors, Wall Street, New York type banks, things like that. And in the private equity world, we had funded, kind of self-funded a lot of what we did, myself and my partners that I work with. And this was a new concept. This was introduced to me by some of our team members. I'd heard vaguely about crowdfunding and about Reg CF and things like that, but wasn't super familiar with it. Got introduced to it by some of the other team members here at Alpine-X. They had attended a seminar by one of the leading crowdfunding attorneys about the concept. Got very interested in it. We looked some more into it, and that's really I came upon it. Like I said, I was very new to the concept. It was very foreign to me, but it was very interesting to start to learn about.
And what were some of your thoughts? Were you a little bit skeptical? Did you believe that people could actually do this, right? Invest money online in new startups? What kind of were your initial thoughts on that?
You're right. As an auditor by training and a finance guy by background, you have a natural skepticism toward things. Maybe they get drilled into you a little bit too much. And that's the first reaction is, boy, this does seem a little bit odd. But then you read about it, you read about the success stories, you talk to people that have done this. I talked to the attorney at length who we ended up hiring, the person that first introduced us to this to help us through this process. And you learn about the success stories, and more importantly, we looked at it and said, well, what are we trying to accomplish with our company? And we looked at our real mission of inclusivity, about getting people not involved just in snow sports, but getting them exposed to it, a whole resort experience and making that open to everybody and inclusive to everybody. And you think
Mm.
about, well, what better way to do to preach inclusivity in everything you do by making even your ownership as inclusive as possible. That's really the philosophy we came at it with, and why the more we learned about it, we said this makes a lot of sense for aligning with our brand, aligning with our company, aligning with what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay, so I do have some questions for you on Reg CF, but before we get into that, for those that are in the audience and they're also hearing this for the first time, why do you think that this is something that people get interested in as opposed to other ways of distributing capital, like the stock market, right? Or REITs or all these other different products out there? Why are you find that people are enjoying participating in your campaign and campaigns like that?
Well, I think people get more engaged generally in things that they can participate in and feel a part of more directly. And to me, sure, I can go on to a brokerage site and buy a share of common stock or buy common stock in any public company, and that's a pretty painless and quick process. But I don't know if that process engages me much or makes me feel like I'm participating much in the company. I think people like things like the Reg CF, the offering. You get to present yourself in an offering page. Ours is on Republic, the offering page, and present a lot of information about who you are, what you're trying to do, what the background is, what your management team's done in the past. You don't really get that opportunity as readily as easily in a lot of other circumstances. And I think that's a big difference. I think it allows people, and also the Reg CF, we're able to set minimums and maximums for wherever you want. So that really lets people say, "Hey, gee, for less than the cost that it would take me to go skiing this weekend up at one of the local resorts,
Yeah,
I can buy a part and be part of this experience at Alpine X and
so
be part
cool,
of
so
what they're
cool.
going to develop." So I really think that kind of engagement you just don't get through a normal buying experience. But I think the crowdfunding really enables that to happen.
Yeah, and I also love that, at certain levels you can get a free lift ticket, right? Which is really cool. Have a nice
Absolutely,
little
but
bonus there.
yeah. Perks are really important, and if on our offering page, on anybody's offering page who does a crowdfunding raise, you see a level of perks, and you're right. You can offer things like swag. You can offer free lift tickets. You can offer experiences of interacting with management through a Zoom call that's only open to them. Things like that. That
Mhm.
gosh, in a public company environment, you get very distanced from that kind of thing, and you just don't feel as to me personally didn't feel as engaged with your customer as you can be here or
Yeah.
with your owners as you can be in a crowdfunding raise.
So for anyone who's kind of new to this, and they look at your page and like, oh my gosh, this person was able to attract 1,000 backers or 900K. Do you have any secrets that you can share when it comes to really generating those kinds of results? Was it as simple as just outreaching to a lot of people? Did you do anything like email marketing? Like, what were you guys doing behind the scenes to really make that kind of goal a reality?
I think with any successful raise, whether it's crowdfunding, whether it's public markets, whatever, it's a process and it's a multi-pronged process and it has to be. And I think for our Reg CF, we approach it on a lot of different fronts. Obviously, we have a great team of people internally with a lot of years of business experience in a lot of different fields. So we mind our personal contacts because I think that's always a great first place to go to look for. But we also looked at strategies to get ourselves out there. We're a company that is a startup, is in a pre-development phase of our first resort being built. So we don't have a resort somebody can drive to and see and touch and feel and experience right now. So it's important just to get the idea of our company out there and the image of our company out there. We used PR to a great extent. We hired a great PR firm who was instrumental, I think, in our success here because they introduced Alpine-X to a lot of different venues. We got Bodie Miller to join our team as Chief Innovation Officer, and Bodie's very involved with what we do. He's always viewed as growing the sport is very important. So we reached out to him, got involved with him, and he joined our team. So obviously, somebody that well known in the snow sports arena is instrumental as well. And we also use very traditional, what I guess was nowadays is traditional means of marketing through Facebook, through Google, through ads like that. So it's really all these approaches together. I think are important. It'd be great for for anything in life if you can push on one front and succeed and get 1,000 people in. But I think we wanted as many people as possible to join as shareholders. So we pursued all these things simultaneously, pushed on all of them, and I think it's been a great success for us. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking also at some of your reviews. So some people say, I'm bullish on Alpine-X idea. I love the idea of being able to enjoy traditional winter sports and enjoy a ski vacation at any time of the year. Other people saying, I want to learn how to ski, but never really had the time to cash in on it.
Mhm.
Executionist idea would give thousands of youth in the same position the ability to access what was normally deemed only for the well off.
Yeah, I think that hopefully speaks to the point that we're trying to make as a company, and we're resonating with people and connecting with people. A big part of it is, hey, we're building in Fairfax County, Virginia, our first resort. We want people in Fairfax County, Virginia, to be able to own a piece of this thing before it's even built, before while we're still developing. So that was an important point of the story. And you're right; those reviews that you just read, I think they really touch on gosh, people understand what we're trying to do and they really enjoy it and they can really get behind it. I think in a participative economy, those are the kinds of companies we all
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
we want to back. We want to say, hey, I support that company either by buying their products or owning their stock or however it might be.
So when you're kind of coordinating this internally as a team, are you like writing out the different emails that you're going to send? Are you kind of planning that with a timeline? Talk to us just a tiny bit about what coordination looks like behind the scenes when you're really trying to get all these different moving pieces right going in the same direction.
Sure. We were very fortunate. Our team includes a couple people that have great experience in marketing and digital marketing and ad campaigns and things like that, as well as some people that have tremendous abilities in graphic design and in making things look really impressive when we send them out. So we laid out a campaign of different messaging that we wanted to do throughout. Obviously, your messaging at the very beginning is different than your messaging that's going to be coming up when we get to the end of our raise here at the end of this month. But it's very important to sort of have a cadence to that. So you start with it's sort of an introductory message. As you make progress here, you message out differently. The Republic site is great because we can message out to our existing uh, people that have already invested. We send them periodic updates and things like that, and let them know what's going on as we announce new areas of the country we're going to, as we announce new business partners like a Bodie Miller, as we announce how many people are now engaged and invested. So it's pushing on all those things, and I think making sure that you have a pattern and a cycle to how you want to present that information. I think that's very important because, like I said,
Mm.
there's going to be a learning process. We learned throughout this process. We did tracking of ads, and we learned what we did A/B testing. Very very traditional types of things to understand what works and what doesn't work, what was getting results from an investing standpoint, what wasn't doing as well, and we adjusted mid-course. And now, when we get to the end of the campaign, we're meeting at least weekly with our team to talk about, gee, where do we want to spend dollars this week? What's our strategy? What new methods do we want to bring in the last month of the campaign? Things like that. So it's a constant drumbeat of activity, I think, and I think
Mm.
that's really the way you have to approach it. It's not certainly not a passive activity. It requires a lot of effort, but hopefully it gets you a great result. And I think that's what we've gotten with ours.
Was there a reason why you decided to go with Republic? And by the way, I do love, man, Republic has great user interface, great design, right? Is
Mhm.
there a reason why you decided to go with Republic as a team?
We looked at a number of different potential platforms. We talked to all the big people that are in this space. We're sort of an odd hybrid company in some ways. We're a real estate company because there's going to be a real estate component because we're going to own parts of the resorts that we build. We're a services company. We're going to manage and operate those things. We're an experience company because a big part of what we do is the guest experience, the customer experience. A lot of those different things. I don't know if there's any one platform that perfectly fits any one company, and that's why I would
Yeah.
encourage anybody to do their own
Do your
research and
research.
look at yeah, absolutely. We talked, like I said, we talked to all the big players in here. We looked at other companies that were already listed, or already running campaigns at the various providers, and we just felt most comfortable with Republic, and it's
Mm.
been a great experience. We like the way they let you present your company. We designed our entire offering page ourselves, put all that information in there. And I really think it does come across very well.
And one of the cool things is you guys are what's called power founders, right? Which is almost kind of like a celebrity badge, if you will, right? Because you guys have operated and exited different companies before. How does this compare from like the finances standpoint of getting this offering ready compared to other ways of raising funds? Would you say was it more
Well,
difficult? Was it more onerous? Was it less? What are your thoughts?
yeah, it's a great question. I think in a lot of ways it's a lot simpler than people think. It is not overly difficult, I don't think, to do. I think we had the good fortune that with my background and other people on our team's backgrounds, we had been through a lot of capital raises in the past in other environments, not through crowdfunding, but we had experience in putting together things like an SEC document, the Form C that you need to file, things like that. But even if you don't, there are a lot of good attorneys out there who can walk you through the process and get you through the process very clearly. I think the speed of execution and the ability to get it done is a lot quicker and relatively easier on the crowdfund and a lot of other avenues out there. So I really think it's a great process. I think democratizing investing and giving more companies the ability to do this and to directly reach out to people that want to invest. I think it's a win-win for companies and for investors. So we've really enjoyed the
Awesome.
entire
Yeah.
process.
Cool. So I do have a couple more questions for you on the business side, but before we get to that, you're obviously a pretty smart guy. You know your stuff when it comes to raising capital, when it comes to spotting opportunities. You've had previous exits that are successful, going to public. For this deal, for this particular project, why do you see this working out so well? Do you think this is just going to be a major wave of the future? Right, we're going to have more kinds of establishments like that. What are your thoughts on the future and how you're going to impact the market?
First of all, I appreciate the personal comments you said. I don't know if they're accurate, but I appreciate that. But I think it's worked out well because people really value their time. One of our people we work with very closely, she's coined this phrase, the economy of time. And I think it's very important to people. And I think people want experiences, but they also clearly value their time extremely high anymore. In the post-COVID environment, maybe that's even more focused than it used to be. And
I
I
think
think,
so, yeah.
yeah, and I think people look at us and they say, "Gee, here's a place that's trying to build, that's developing this great new idea." And like you said, there might be the woman or a man that said, "Gee, I was always interested in boarding or skiing, but I never really had the time to do it. And the mountain was a couple hours away, or was flying out to Colorado or Utah, and that was really expensive and and really difficult to do." I think people say, "Hey, I can really get behind a company that's going to offer something like this for an entire community, make it really convenient, build in major metro areas. So make it so, gee, if my kids want to go do this for a couple of hours after school, it's going to be easy and simple for me to take them down there. If they're teenagers, they can drive down themselves. They can board or ski for 2 hours.
Mm.
They can hit a restaurant, get a meal, and then come on home." And I think people really value, gee, I can compartmentalize and get these compact, awesome experiences without a lot of difficulty. I think that's really important to people anymore, and I think it's going to be increasingly important in a world where plane travel is a bit of a pain. A lot of experience aren't easily accessible to all of us anymore. So I think people really value, gee, this is something I can get behind.
So let me ask you kind of a tough question here, which is, why hasn't this been done, right? Or is it being done in other parts of the world? Why do you feel like this is a unique opportunity for your team?
That's the right question to ask. It's a great question to ask. And when I came on board, and I came on board with my business partner, that was one of the big questions that we asked. Well, gosh, if this is a good idea, why isn't anybody else doing it? The natural thing that you would ask. And I think the answer to that is there are, as I mentioned, there's 100 plus indoor snow sports facilities around the world. But you think about, you go look at the heritage of them, how they sort of grew up. Most of them grew up initially in Europe, and that was a place where the skiing and snow culture is very ingrained in people, and travel distances
Mm.
are much shorter. So they were very convenient for people to get to. But you had this big sort of built-in audience already. In America, you don't really have that. In America, you have roughly 12 million people that ski or snowboard more 3 or more times a year. And that number's been relatively constant for the last 15, 20 years. There hasn't been great growth in that. So you have to design something that has this great experience for snowboarding and snow sports, but you have to also expand on that and make a resort that's going to interest a lot of casual people, a lot of people that just want to come see it or experience it for the first time, but make it easy for it to be repeatable as well. And the way you do that, so in Europe, when these things were first built, it was basically a ski hill. Well, we've taken that and said, hey, you're going to have this great ski hill. You're going to have a ski hill that's going to have a relatively beginner slope. You're going to have one that's going to have a very difficult slope. So regardless of your level of skill in skiing or boarding, there's going to be something for you. We're going to have a terrain park in there. So if you want to do tricks on your board, it's going to be
Yeah, I love that
fantastic.
idea.
Exactly, fantastic. But in addition to that, Sal, you say, hey, we're going to build this big training learning area right next to it, adjacent to the slopes. So it's segregated. So you don't have skiers running through you when you're trying to learn and first getting on a set of skis or getting on a board. So we're going to make that experience much easier. And if you don't want to do any of those, we're going to have a 50,000 square foot snow play area there. So if you just want to come down, throw a snowball, do a little bit of indoor tubing, indoor sledding, play with your kids, or just have fun in a controlled environment. It's 28 degrees, but there's no wind and there's no adverse conditions, and snow
Yeah, yeah.
365 days a year. You have to add all those things, and then what you have to add to that, a whole resort experience. You have to add multiple restaurants that look into here through a big glass wall.
Yeah.
You're going to have a hotel attached. So if you want to stay overnight, this is really a convenient experience. You get a meeting
Mhm.
space with the hotel. So you really, our viewpoint on this, we come from, my business partners and I come from hospitality backgrounds and from entertainment backgrounds. I think you need to roll all those in together to make this viable. And I don't think a lot of people have
Yeah,
looked at it
make a
that way.
really big experience. Yeah, make a
Exactly.
big experience in that way.
Big and broad. You're right. You have to appeal to people that haven't skied, haven't snowboarded before, and people. You have to make it challenging enough for people that are really good at it, so they won't say, "Oh gosh, that's boring. I don't want to go there." So we're gonna have Olympic level people that are able to train at our resorts the way they're built.
Love it.
So that's the secret.
So I just have a couple more questions on the business side. So one of the things you mentioned in this interview, which has been kind of consistent, it sounds like throughout your career, is that you've been really lucky, right? You've been across a lot of opportunities. In this show, we try to talk a lot about success, right? Do you feel like there's anything you've done to put yourself in those situations that have kindled luck or that have led to good outcomes? Is there anything you can share on that thought about why you believe you've been lucky in your career?
That's a fantastic question. I haven't thought about that a whole lot. When I was in college, I remember one of my professors putting up this slide that was a very traditional phrase about, luck is where opportunity meets preparation. And I think that's, it's kind of trite but true. It's one of those things. So I've tried to be in my career, put yourself next to really good people. Try to join teams, be part of that team. You don't need to always run the show. If you can be part of a great team that is accomplishing great things and has great goals and has great ethics and a great business plan, I think that's the best way to get quote unquote lucky in your career. And I
Yeah.
think I've been fortunate with that. I was fortunate to start my career in a place, Deloitte, that was driven, a lot of highly driven, very talented people. A lot of those people, including my business partner now, who I work with, who's CEO of our company, he and I started there together. So that's somebody I've known for 30 plus years and been able to work with. So I think putting yourself around people that are motivated, that want to
Mhm.
succeed, that have great ideas, I think that's the best way to get lucky in your career.
Yeah, yeah. I forget where I heard it, but a lot of luck is also attached and opportunities are attached to people, right? So, like you said,
Yeah.
kind of getting around the right people. As a quick follow up, do you have any thoughts on how to really find good partners? And you maybe do come across these people, but they end up working with you, right, on different projects. Are there any thoughts you have on finding those great partners or those people, those working relationships or deepening them?
I guess my only thought is to just always have an open mind. Every meeting you have, any business relationship you have, you don't know where that's going to lead, and you don't know how people are going to be able to help you. So you may think it's just quotes, just a vendor or just a whatever, but that person, if you really listen to them, if you explain to them what you're doing, they may not be the person that's going to be able to help you, but they may know somebody that's another business link or another connection, another step in the path of getting something done. So my advice is just to be as open minded as you can. Listen more than you talk, because I think that always works out well in life in general, but particularly in business, because a lot of people have just fantastic experiences, fantastic backgrounds, but you have to be able to let them talk and listen to them explain what they've done, and then think about, gee, how can that work with what I'm trying to do or expand upon what I'm trying to do?
The other quick thing before I forget, you mentioned an attorney. I don't know if you have the link or their website you want to give a shout out there or
Absolutely. His name is Kendall Almarico. His firm is Almarico Law. And Kendall is I think, an acknowledged expert in crowdfunding, in Reg A and Reg CF, all those types of things. And as I mentioned, he's been a tremendous resource to us throughout our process. And I don't think he would mind at all be giving his name out here, because I think Kendall is always open and welcome to trying to help other people that are interested in the crowdfunding area, trying to help them be successful.
awesome. Well said. Well, so we're coming to the end of the interview here. First of all, where can people go to learn more about Alpine-X and kind of what you're doing here?
Sure. Our company website is alpine-x.com. And that has the usual full boat of information about ourselves, our company, our backgrounds, a lot of great news stories about things we've accomplished. We just had a big announcement last week that we're looking to expand our next resorts, build our next resorts down in Texas. We had an announcement about that, and just all sorts of information like that. Our offering page is at ownyourmountain.com. And again, a wealth of information about the company, about our business plan, all those types of things.
Great. And my final question for you is, if you could put yourself in the shoes of a listener who maybe is thinking of doing one of these projects or thinking of starting their new company, or they already got something going and they're kind of wondering, should they go big? Like you said, maybe we could end with either a word of encouragement, a final tip, a final bit of advice. Could be on the process of Reg CF, or it could just be in general when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. We can end on that note.
My advice to anybody would be that there are no limits to what you can accomplish through crowdfunding. I mean, if somebody had told me 18 months ago, you can go raise what we've raised through this type of process, and again, as somebody hadn't heard of it and wasn't familiar with it, I'd say, gee, I can't imagine that. But I think the reality is you can accomplish tremendous things through the crowdfunding, through whether it's Reg CF, Reg A, whatever you end up doing. So my advice is, don't be limited by your prior imagination about what's possible. Think big.
Well said. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on, and good luck with your remaining days here.
Thanks, Sal. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you for joining me on today's podcast episode. One of the things that is holding you back from raising capital is just kind of, you don't know what you don't know, right? And when it comes to this is something that can be very frustrating. It can be very obscure. It can be really difficult to navigate the crowdfunding waters. That's one of the reasons why I offer coaching as one of my services. So I offer a lot of different stuff. You can go to my website to learn more at crowdcrux.com. And one of the things I like to do are intensive coaching calls. These are one-off calls, one individual, one-on-one calls with Sal, with me. And we try to get really deep into your project, into what you're trying to accomplish. A lot of the people who book calls also want some guidance. They want some support. Some people have a big enough budget where they can actually bring me on to their project to help directly. It really kind of varies. But I'd say that of all of the different, calls that I've done over the years, this is like literally hundreds and hundreds of students that I've seen. I would say that the biggest thing is that people really just want to know that they're on the right track. And I'd say even more than that, they want to know how to get to A to B faster, get the result faster than what they're trying to do right now. They want to discover the hacks, the tricks. They want to know what they can do in order to blow past their goal when it comes to a crowdfunding campaign. And I've worked very, very hard over many, many years to discover a lot of things that are proven to work in order to get funds to your campaign. And I would say that when it comes to my YouTube channel, my blog, my podcast, all that kind of stuff, it's really just scraping the surface, man. Like, there is such a huge reservoir of knowledge underneath that. So many different tactics and tools that you don't even know about when it comes to getting people to actually take action with a crowdfunding campaign, to support you, to back you, to invest in you, all of those different things. And this process, man, if there's anything you do, you gotta invest in yourself. The more that you know, the more confident you're gonna be going into an upcoming campaign, as well as when it comes to this project, having, just a clear sense of what you gotta do in order to achieve success. I'm really talking about unlocking those doors that you need to walk through in order to get to that new chapter in your life. And I know it's kind of heavy, or it's kind of like, deep, but that's really what this is. If you move through this process correctly, and if you really kind of value, and I would say assign, invest in this process, then you can move into this new chapter of your life, building a completely different business than you maybe thought of, one that's bigger than you may have even imagined, a huge brand, tons of people that are following you online, a massive tribe of people, and also get the funding at the end of the day to move this forward when it comes to a resources standpoint. So make no mistake, if you get this right, it can be a life-changing event, a life-changing moment for you, your business, your team, whoever it is that's working with you when it comes to this project. This can literally be night and day. It can build an entire career overnight. It can build an entire business overnight, entire brand overnight. I've seen it done time and time and time again, and I've had those people on this show. So if that's something you want to do, what I'm talking about today is this is one of the easiest steps to get started moving in that direction. Again, this link, if you want to check this out, these one-on-one coaching calls, is crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link, you just fill out a little bit of a form, enter some information. You can book a one-on-one coaching call with me. Go to crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link again is crowdcrux.com/coaching. crowdcrux.com/coaching. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Go and check me out on YouTube. I got an Instagram. I got to post more there, but there is some good content when it comes to my Instagram. I've got a blog, crowdcrux.com. Got a lot of other free information and resources. I hope that is helping you on this journey, and I hope that ignites a fire underneath you so you start taking action this upcoming week towards your project. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.